Action.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ferrer. I am the Director of Contemporary Art at BRIC Arts Media Brooklyn, and I'm really pleased to welcome you to the exhibition that I curated, Mystics, A Blessed Rage for Order. This is an exhibition that contains the work of 8 artists who I feel are incredibly gifted because their work has a lot to do with the most meticulous forms of creation that you can imagine. I feel that during this period when so many artists are creating their work using computer or digital means, and when the hand of the artist seems to be valued less and less, I wanted to focus on artists who make work that is painstakingly created, who spend an incredible amount of time making works piece by piece. And I feel that this kind of work shows the ability to create objects that sort of transcend the here and now. I feel that all of these artists create a kind of meditative space that represent a kind of a quest for perfection, for the metaphysical. One of the things that you'll see in a lot of the works on view is a focus on things like mark making, layering, repetition. I feel that these forms of creating art really kind of act as a way of sort of marking one's place in time and space. They're a way of saying, you know, this is who I am as an artist in a very, very, very direct and central way. And I feel like a lot of this work is a way of establishing one's sense of place in a world that is just, you know, full of vast complexities. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Chris Fennell's work. This is actually the biggest work in the show. We've given it our center wall. And Chris is essentially a painter. His work is abstract. But I think that it brings to mind so many things. You know, for me, it looks like, you know, bodily systems. It looks like rivers and flows of water. I think a work, especially a large one like this one, evokes the cosmos. And he creates his work with this incredible time-consuming process of cutting these very small paper dots and painting them, and then applying them intersected with rectangular bands of paper, in some cases with different colors of paint, with glittery gel, sometimes with beads. He really thinks about how he intersects and juxtaposes every single piece of paper, you know, every single material that he uses. So the work is built up both horizontally and vertically, but then also it's sort of built up because there are layers and layers of these pieces of paper and paint on his canvases. And I think that Chris is incredibly good at creating this kind of energy. There's always this flow and convergence in his work, and then there seems to be this kind of let go of the energy and creation of new patterns and forms. Chris is an artist who is, you know, incredibly meticulous in his process. He spends hundreds of hours in a single painting. You know, and in doing so, I think he creates this kind of meditative space where you can just get lost in the work. I wanted to talk about Bernard Messner's work because in many ways he was really the inspiration for this exhibition. Bernard Messner is a painter who's been around in New York since the 1980s, and I actually discovered his work at that time. His early work is a merging of a form of calligraphy that really comes from the medieval period. He uses gold leaf, the kinds of paint, and the kinds of materials that were used by, you know, literally by monks in monasteries when they created illuminated manuscripts centuries ago. Messner has taken those processes and turned them into something completely contemporary. He did make miniature books that contain passages of text from contemporary authors. His books that merge images and texts are really sort of a philosophical way of looking at the world, and they're immensely beautiful. You know, they're very, very small. All of his work contains gold leaf. And there's another really interesting thing about Bernard Messner's work. Once, quite a long time ago, he went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where he saw a painting of the Crucifixion by the Dutch master Roger van der Weyden, and he was so struck by the abstract components in that work that he began to paint that over and over again. So in these works, when you see these 2 red rectangulars often crowned by gold, he's evoking that painting and really everything that painting represents. But he completely abstracts those elements. So what he's really doing is creating a kind of metaphysical architecture. For me, they're sort of these little miniature places for the soul to inhabit. In contrast, the artist Mario Trappo is represented by 3 works in the show. He works with this very energetic form of marking endlessly on wooden panels. I think he's actually pretty ritualistic and obsessive about what he does. He literally counts with a calculator each time that he makes these marks, and so he has an awareness of the amount of time and energy that it takes to create these works. I see these works as sort of bursts of energy in some cases, and in others as these sort of really, beautiful fields, simply of line. And they really are just very much about the artist expressing his own inner self, just by that repetitious act of marking and marking on a surface. So that's our current show at BRIC Rotunda Gallery. Please come on down. There's a lot more to see, and the exhibition is on view through April 28th.